I imagine it like if we link it to a bit like an emotional muscle, if you will, for lack of a better analogy, that like you could think that this muscle has atrophied over time, and so you can't just go into the emotional gym, if you will, and start deadlifting 400 pounds. You've got to start with half a pound and see how that feels. You've got to go too slow
That's
if you
right.
go too fast. Like,
That's right.
and these things I think get better over time. I mean, I was in a virtual men's group at some point last year, and one guy who comes from quite a very machismo sort of culture, he was saying like, okay, so
Hmm.
I'm trying to embrace how I feel now and that I have needs that need to be met. He goes, but I don't know what to do with all
Right.
these fucking feelings. And I found it really fascinating, and I thought about it as well for my own journey, for trying to listen to my inner self and be like, yeah, like this is a violation of my safety, my connection, things like that you're saying. And so we had a whole conversation that evening because he had brought up the topic of what he was struggling with. He was in the hot seat, if you will, and we were talking about like how he can just recognize that he's feeling a certain way, and it doesn't have to be overwhelmed, but just to kind of acknowledge that these things are now part of him and not going away. Whereas I think, because you said something before, I think it's informative but not factual or something along those lines. And I love that, because there is
That's right.
such a culture right now in some countries, some parts of the world, where like feelings are supposed to be everything. And like I think they're
Right.
important.
Right.
And like I've never heard of someone put it so succinctly like that, that like there are it is a signal to be listened to, but it doesn't necessarily mean
Right.
that, because if your wiring is a little off, it doesn't mean that it really is a threat,
Right.
or it might be a threat, or why am I feeling like this, or like maybe it's
Right.
just, maybe you're hungry,
Right.
maybe you're not anxious that you're on this date right now, maybe you just haven't eaten for the last 12 hours. There's so many different silly
Right.
things that
Right.
we are as humans, that if we ascribe this narrative to something that's a false signal, we just go off in that direction, and it's a bit of a mess.